ENTREPRENIPPONIAL, the series for entrepreneurs in Japan. Listen, learn, and apply the experiences of others to your entrepreneurial pursuits. Join us.
Let us get started. Today's guest, who is Catherine O'Connell, the principal, founder, and CEO of Catherine O'Connell Law. Being the first guest for this very first episode, I'm very happy to welcome Catherine because she is a very active member of Make March Matter, but she also, in her own right, is an entrepreneur who has been recognized by the British Chamber of Commerce and has received recognition as the Entrepreneur of the Year for 2020. And today, we will have some discussion with Catherine. So Catherine, thank you very much for joining us and being our very first guest. I have a question for you to get started. Why are you entrepreneurial? Why are you an entrepreneur in Japan?
Well, first of all, I have to be able to say that name, don't I? Entrepreneurial. I got it right. Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you so much for hosting me today, Brian, and for everybody showing up. That's amazing. People sign up, but showing up is another thing. I really appreciate you taking the time. So entrepreneurial. I definitely think I am. When we did a pre-discussion on this, Brian, I thought I wasn't, but of course, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in Nippon, Japan, so I have to be that. I definitely am.
Yeah, and so you are an entrepreneur in Japan. So give us some insights into the road that led you to becoming entrepreneurial.
Okay, so I think it doesn't just start when you launch your business as an entrepreneur. It starts from way back before that. So I've been in Japan 18 years. And though at the beginning, I never, ever imagined I would run my own business, and certainly not do that in Japan, it has led to that. And I think all of the little dots have connected to this. So I've been in Japan doing a mix of in-house legal counsel roles. I worked in the big law end of town with a large law firm, and then I sort of did a new job too, launching a legal department in a business that didn't have one. So I've done a few different things, sort of entrepreneurial perhaps, doing entrepreneurial stuff. Being an entrepreneur with inside businesses that I didn't really think about at the time, but if I look back, they were. So all of those experiences led me to do the kind of thing that I'm doing now with this law firm that I have and the model that it's based on.
So walk us through the thought process that you had. You know, this first stage of becoming entrepreneurial, of course, is a very psychological stage because you have to look into yourself and say, is this really what I want to be doing?
Right.
How did you come to that decision?
I guess when I was in my last corporate role, which was, I was there for about 5 years, partway through that, I had somebody in my staff leave, and I needed some help to, get me through the gap in my work to be able to help me and support me. And I couldn't find any lawyer or any legal staff to come on board. And I really wanted just someone part-time. So that's actually when the seed was first sown for me to think about, wouldn't it be great to have somebody who could come in part-time and help me out just for a little bit of time? So I wanted to be that person for other companies, other firms, other businesses. So that's where it started. And so in that previous job, I was fortunate in that we paid into a retirement fund. We paid into that as it was a traditional Japanese company. And for that reason, I'm very thankful because at the end of 5 years, we could go in and say, I'm leaving and I'm going to take my retirement. And I did that. And that was pretty gutsy to leave after 5 years. But it was a significant step for me, Brian, because it meant that I had a fund of money able to sort of, whatever it was going to be next, I didn't quite know, but I knew that I had some financial money sitting there to have a base underneath me to at least carry me through the first several months.
So clearly that's important, right? To know that you have a bit of a financial base before you can start really making money from your new business. Let me ask you this question. Yeah,
Yeah, most definitely. I don't think I would have gone and just tried to do, I'm calling myself lawyer on air here, but there's no way I could have just gone on air in order to launch the business. I needed to have some funds there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let's delve into that a little bit more. So, you are moving from a corporate job into beginning to start up your own law firm.
Right.
Tell us about some of those other concerns, other than the money. What other concerns did you have? And what of those concerns were actually warranted? What do you look back upon now and say, it wasn't necessary to have such a concern?
Right. I guess I knew that I'd have enough money to get me through a little while, but where was the rest of the money going to come from? Right? Who are going to be my clients? Who's going to actually want to pay me? Do I have enough experience and expertise to actually serve a market? That wasn't tested, maybe not just only by me, but in others doing it before me. So there was that apprehension, I guess, the inner, I wouldn't call it maybe it's a critic, and a critic saying, are you actually able to really do this? So there was that kind of, I suppose, something that was going against me internally. And then, knowing that the process of me getting to open up a business, and it's not just for a legal business, but I think with everybody's business, there's so many steps to go through. Did I have the patience to do that? The stamina? Did I really want to do this? So there was a lot of that kind of confidence aspect as well. So it's sort of clients, confidence, and a critic. And then up until then, I'd also been working for other companies and resting upon the laurels of that business's reputation and brand name. Suddenly I'm myself and I'm on my own brand name. And as a law firm, if you run it by yourself in Japan, you have to use your own name. That's why I'm Catherine O'Connell Law, not Sunshine Law Firm, for example, right? I am my name. So there's that, what is my name going to mean in the community? So there's a few things there. And you've asked me the question, were they really founded? Those concerns. Well, yeah, I'd already done the hard yards on building my network over the last 18 years. So clients, and we can talk about that, were there. They were just waiting for me, and they came. If you build it, they will come. And I think that's very true. Number two, the confidence. Well, I worked on that because I actually hired an executive coach the year that I launched my business. And that executive coach really guided me in many ways to think about my business and myself internally differently. So confidence built within me. And that answers a lot of what I've just said were my concerns. I think they were overcome quite significantly by clients coming to me because I'd done the hard work and also working with an executive coach.
Okay, so having the right finances, having the confidence, and having an executive coach is what got you started, got you to the point of starting. So now let's talk about that. And when did you start this law firm? How long ago?
Sure. I launched the actual business on April 1, 2018. So it's coming up to 3 years this year.
3 years now. So go back to that initial period in your mind, April 1, 2018. Tell us a little bit about now the mechanics of starting up your business at that point. What kind of legal entity did you start?
Right. So that's a good question. As a law firm, it's a little different from perhaps the people who are joining the call today, in that you can't set up as a company. So I couldn't be a KK or a GK in Japan. So the only option was to be a sole trader, sole practitioner. And the business name that the Ministry of Justice have given us is a very long name, right? Gai Kokuho Jimu Ben Goshi Jimusho, which is a long mouthful, but that's what we are technically called under the law. So it's an entity in itself, but it's a sole trader occupation. So I set that up in 2018, but the year before that, Brian, when I'd left the other corporate role, there was a lot of paperwork to be done to set up. It took 10 months to do that. And so during that time, I was actually sort of a pseudo lawyer in terms of it being just a business operator running a consultancy. So in that setup time, while I couldn't be under the umbrella of a law firm because I hadn't got registered, in that period of time, I had to hold myself out as a business person providing business advice. So I sort of had that little run up before I launched completely into the law firm role.
So your case is a little bit unique in that you are a law firm, and as a legal entity, you are, regulated in a way that most businesses would not be.
Yeah.
But what you're also, maybe you could explain, you were, excuse me, in those first few months before you had your law firm set up, you were operating as an individual, correct?
Yes.
So you didn't have the corporate entity. So what's it like to operate as an individual, as a sole entrepreneur, proprietor, versus having the legal entity?
I didn't see it in much difference in my case, but had I supposedly set up a business in a KK, a company framework for that initial first year before I set up the law firm, things could have been different. But because I had the end game in mind, the end game being the law firm, I knew that that was a sole trader enterprise anyway. So I didn't want to complicate it by setting up a company framework, right? So I could have done that and converted, but I didn't want an extra thing on my plate to deal with. So I just went with the sole trader from the outset. I got some advice. I got an accountant who was referred to me, and that's a thing, again, from the community. Somebody referred an accountant to me. I worked with that person, and we worked through some of the options. So around the legal stuff of setting up your business, the accountant is probably primary, right, to consult for the kind of business you want to run. So for me, it worked out going through all of the check sheets. Did I have a stock company option? Did I have a limited liability company option? No, I didn't. Right. What's the next step? Run through those steps to figure out which is the right one.
Okay. So you have a legal entity, you're set up as a law firm, you have an accountant. Now you need to get business. Tell us about getting that first client. What was it like? How did you go about it?
Okay, so the first client, I could take it back before the law firm business. So when I was doing the consultancy, I had my first client, I guess, in the door within a month. Maybe I was fortunate, but I had people who knew that I was about to set up my own business, and 2 people referred me a client each. So I had one client who came on board, and that person actually was my first person who didn't pay my bill. Was horrific. I just couldn't understand that in Japan someone would not pay a bill, and they were Japanese. It just horrified me. Is this what it's going to be like? The other client did pay my bill, and that came from a law firm, a partner in a law firm, a big law firm, who said to me, "This is just a tiny job, 100,000 yen. You probably aren't going to be interested in it, but would you like to do it?" And I'm thinking, 100,000 yen when you've just set up your business, that'll be good. So that person, of course, paid, and I got confidence back by that one. But the second client, as I mentioned, the first client, not paying, they eventually did 2 years later. I just got paid at the end of last year, which is fine, but it's not fine, right? But it made me learn a little bit about the fact that even in Japan, you've got to be careful about people who don't pay you.
Yeah. So let's talk about this for a moment. Normally this comes at a later stage, but you learned very quickly what it's like to not have an outstanding payable to you. How did you go about making sure that you did get paid in the end?
Yeah, well, I just honestly at the very beginning just thought that people would pay. I can't receive money up front in my business because I would need to operate a trust account if I'm holding clients' money on trust. But other businesses can do that. So I certainly recommend, if you are an ordinary sole trader, not a law firm, and you have the capability to receive your funds up front, completely do that. It shows that people have putting their money where their mouth is, literally, that they pay you 50% and the 50% later, for example, or in 3 lots, however you want to do it. That means that you're assured of getting at least some money in the bank before they disappear, if they do disappear, right? So for me, I just make sure that my payment term is very narrow. It's 15 days. So that was also advised to me from the New Zealand Law Society when I set up. They said, you're a small business, make your payment terms very close and narrow. So it should be 15 days or less, 10 days even, after you've invoiced. And that's what I've done, and people have accepted it. So being very clear on your payment terms and the way that you are holding yourself out to receive your money. Get it in advance, or have it so that it's coming in a short time. So you're not a bank holding them, and their security. You get the money in quickly.
Very good. So, but you did get paid. 100,000 yen is your first payment, right?
Yeah.
So tell us, what was that like, getting paid for the first time, starting your own, from your own business? How did you feel at that moment?
Well, it came just before that, Brian, because writing the invoice was the exciting thing. Actually doing my name, my logo at that time, and sending an invoice and going, my God, I've just invoiced somebody for money that's going to come directly to me, not to another business, or it's not external to me. This is internal. That was exciting to do an invoice. And I still get such a joy writing invoices. Someone doesn't for me, but just seeing that go out as part of the mechanism is a joy. And then when it came in, I know I photocopied the page in my bank book, and I had put it on the wall and put a ring around it and said, that's the first one. So that was significant for me to memorialize it, right? To have it significant in my mind and memory that was the first.
Yeah. Writing invoices every month is the one administrative task that I do enjoy doing. I enjoy doing that myself. Yeah. And so we have a question, actually. You mentioned a moment ago that you set terms of, net 15. In my business, I thought it was almost, customary in Japan to be, net 30. But if a customer has their own standard terms and they say that it's 60 days out, or it's a different, figure, do you simply just accept it, or do you insist upon your standard?
Yeah, it depends. It depends. If they're a smaller business, then they will understand that you are also small, and I think you can negotiate terms. If it's a larger end of town, you know that they've got their structures set up. The finance team pay all the bills on a certain time. That's fine, but that's exactly the case where you should get a 50-50, 50 up front and 50 later. And I think if you've negotiated the deal before the paperwork comes, before you see those terms, and you're asking them what their terms are up front, you should just be very, very clear and say, okay, I understand it's 60 days, but we're a small operation here, and to sustain me through this project with you, that requires a 50% upfront payment, and then I'm happy with the 50% later. That's my standard terms, right? So do be quite honest and clear about your terms at the start as well. And I've found that if you say that at the front, then they know what you're coming about. If you leave it till the end when they send their document, it's not good enough. Get those terms up front and talk about them very clearly and very openly and honestly.
Okay. So Catherine, let's shift slightly, but still keep your mind in those first few weeks, months of starting up your business. We understand that you were able to get your first clients through recommendations. I'm imagining thereafter you've been building your business. What were some of the very first things that you did to build your business? Maybe speak to your website, your logo, your branding.
Yeah. Well, I as I was doing the consultancy work, I was building my law firm brand, website, logo, all those things. At the same time, I was telling people what I was about to do. Telling people about what you're about to do signifies to them that you're doing something they can try and support you and look for ways to support you. And that's what happened with me. And also, when it comes to having actually launched, they will be the people who speak for you and spread the word. So during that year of 2017, I was telling people what I was doing. I also set up a whole lot of appointments for April and May and June in 2018. So I had a lot of people lined up to talk with. And once, for example, many of you know FEW Japan, and I look back in my diary, 2018, April, the first 3 weeks there, and I see the first people that I met at that time. And FEW Japan were one of the many who came to me and said, we'd like you to come and do a presentation and speak to our group about how you've launched your business and about women in law in Japan. And I was freaking out. How would I do that as myself do it? But I did. And so one of the very first meetings was to meet with a group who I could actually go and have an open audience to speak with. So finding those opportunities and saying yes to them, where you have an opportunity to talk about your business and yourself and have people get to know you. If there's 30 in the room, that's 30 voices going to 2 people, another 60 people to speak about you, right? Or 60 or 120. So that was important, Brian, to plan out meetings with people where I could face-to-face talk to them and speak about what I was doing. Critical to build on that network and meet people and be out there.
Catherine, on that point too, now in your case, I mean, you have been practicing for many years before you started your own firm. But, you know, when you're saying in 2018, this is what we do as a law firm, you still haven't built that actual experience yet of doing it. So sometimes people may feel a bit of that imposter syndrome. They're saying we're doing something that we haven't really done yet. In your case, professionally, you had been doing the same work, but you still haven't done it. You hadn't done it so much to that point as Catherine O'Connell Law. How did you overcome any kind of difficulties of telling people this is what you do, but you haven't done it yet? Did you have any problem with that or any advice point here?
I think at the start, yeah, I thought I haven't done it, right, as myself, but actually I had done it. I've been a lawyer for 20 years. So why is that not the same as me doing it myself? I was the one who was doing the work. So yes, professionally, I was able to do that. When we're lawyers, we learn how to be lawyers. We don't learn how to be business operators. So I had to learn that kind of stuff. But it's not something that magically falls down upon you in some sprinkle of glitter. You know, it happens as you build your grit, as you build your every step forward, every conversation with somebody, when they tell you something you didn't know, or they make a comment and you have that exciting word, tell me more, right? And you get them to tell you more about what they're thinking. It just builds. It's never right there. It's like sand coming up on the beach, you know, make a sand castle. It's never straight there. It comes in with every wave coming through. So I think I've forgotten your question. What was the question?
But did you ever have any kind of imposter syndrome? In your case, I don't believe so.
Yeah. So I don't think I had imposter syndrome because I knew I could do the work and I could work out the sort of katachi, the structure around it as I went, but I knew I could do the work. It was really, was this going to be in the market and a viable option? And again, in that first year of doing consultancy, when I was so annoyed that I couldn't start my business straight away, my real law firm business, it was a gift in retrospect because I could go to my in-house legal counsels. I could go to my friends who are running businesses and ask them all those questions. What do you need in the market? What's missing when you go to see lawyers? How much would you pay for a lawyer? And also finding out and doing all the research of all the law firms in Japan, in Tokyo, I should say, and finding out what they charge and asking lawyers, how much do you charge? And working out what I could charge. So being very active and asking questions sort of made me overcome if I did have any imposter syndrome. I don't think I had that. I just wasn't a business owner, but why couldn't I do that? Everyone else can do it. Why could I not do that? I had confidence to back myself on that part, I think. Yeah. Okay.
So clearly what you're saying is it's that very baseline confidence in yourself first as a professional, you know, which is the prerequisite for being able to sort of move forward into your own business.
If you're going to deliver your business, if you're a coach, you need to be able to coach, right? Working out how to operate the business, someone else who's a good operator will give you hints how to do that. I'm a lawyer who can give legal advice. I may not know how to own a business or run a business, but I've learned that from so many of the entrepreneurs in the community. And again, from my executive coach, who was a business owner, gave me lots of guidance around that or places to go and find out the information. But like most things, running a marathon, you've just got to run it. And you've got to take your first steps and build up your stamina. Roger's nodding his head because he's a Spartan and he does a lot of racing and running, and you just got to build it up. Go from 100 meters to 200 meters to get round the corner, go further and further up the hill.
Yeah. And now that you are building it up, Catherine, so it's been 3 years now. You did mention that you were sort of researching market rates previously. there was a comment that just came in that about 30 years ago, it was possible for lawyers to receive gifts. Do you receive all of your payments in actual payment to a bank account? Is there anything else that you receive, or what is your formula right now for determining your pricing?
Right. So absolutely no gifts, absolutely no cash.
Mm-hmm.
Everything comes into the account. I do certifications, and I know Yuichi will know about this because he's a guru lawyer, is also on the screen today. So I do certifications of people's documents, right? They need them authorized, usually bank documents or visa documents or some kind of document that has to be submitted to an authority, where my charge for doing that is around 10,000 yen. So it's easy just to pull out a brown note from your pocket and receive it, but I can't do that. So I still have to invoice for that, and the person has to pay the account. It's the only way to do it. If I do it on cash basis, I'll be out of a job and my reputation will be zero. So I cannot receive cash payments. In terms of other gifts, generally speaking, I don't receive gifts. I'm not allowed to receive gifts. Some people give me low value, and I don't mean low value as in they're worth nothing. I mean smaller gifts. They may be flowers, or they might be chocolates and things like that. That's okay. But holidays, or not that I've received anybody giving me a voucher for a holiday or a hotel stay or anything like that. So gifts are generally a no-no for lawyers. We're under the GDPR, the compliance policies like everybody else, and we're not supposed to receive gifts. It creates a bias and a conflict of interest with the way in which we approach our work. So if you hear of anybody getting gifts like that, Kate, I think there's some issues there.
In the first few years of doing my business, I was giving osebo to a lot of partners and customers, as was customary in Japan. And over a few years period, I would always receive a message to say, thank you very much, but next year, don't give us that gift. And just about 2 or 3 years ago, I completely gave up on the idea of giving osebo too.
Yeah, it can complicate people and their businesses, which normally have compliance policies now that are that don't allow those things, or allow them only to a certain minimum amount. And on the market rates question, Brian, I still look at all my lawyer friends around town and understand what they are charging. Most Japanese law firms will put their charges on the website, so you can find them very easily. Other big law firms, I've had the advantage of working on the other side. When I do these in-house counsel project roles that I do now, I see what the other lawyers are charging. Okay, of course I can't share that information, but I've seen it, so I can't unsee it. So I have a lot of information that comes to me, so I can judge my rate is appropriate in the market. I haven't raised it for 3 years, but I'm thinking of doing that this year on my anniversary to a little bit higher, but it would still be at market.
Okay. And speaking about that, so it's been about, you're coming up on your 3-year anniversary. How has your business grown over these years?
Right. So I think it's grown in terms of revenue. So I've had more clients coming who are paying a higher bid, right? A higher price for what I do. So larger end of town clients are coming to me. So some of them being Fortune 500s have now heard about me. They maybe don't have the kind of service that I can provide from other vendors. So I'm a go-to person. So I've seen that change in the higher level of clients and also what they're able to spend. I've also been able to take on people part-time in my business to help me, because I certainly can't do all that admin myself. Invoicing, I don't touch it. So that's outsourced. And I also hired an operations manager part-time for me. And that operations manager has set up SOPs, so standard operating procedures for how I hire people, for how I run accounting, for how I do networking events and Catherine O'Connell law style. All of these, I've spent the money to build a set of documents which guide the law firm and the process side of things. So processes have been set up. I think that's a growth. Hiring people part-time is also a growth. The number of clients and the kinds of clients have changed. So I think that's also a growth. I think growth can be also, lateral. It doesn't have to be massive branches of Catherine O'Connell law across the globe. It's not that. It's a different way that we can view scaling.
Catherine, you mentioned just a moment ago, a point I want to return to, that your services are somewhat unique in the market. Are they unique because you're providing for a very niche legal requirement or need? Or is it also unique because you are Catherine O'Connell, who is not a Japanese lawyer? So being a non-Japanese person, how is that impacting your business?
Yeah, being non-Japanese person, of course, is niche. The level of my Japanese language and being able to work in it on a daily basis is also perhaps niche, to be honest. And I think because I'm a lawyer around town who has done a lot of in-house legal practice, I've worked in businesses and advised businesses on the law as an internal lawyer. That's different to a lot of lawyers around town who are sitting in a law firm. Maybe they do a short secondment off to their client's office for a few months and come back. But I've had a consistent number of years, and that depth of experience is not there in the market. I can certainly hold myself out as saying I'm the only person who's done that degree of in-house legal work and now running a law firm. Most people would stick in-house or would only do a short secondment and go back to the big law firm model. But doing what I'm doing in this hybrid is absolutely unique. And so that is a complete selling point. And just to go on that a little bit further, Brian, I think anybody who's on this call, narrowing down and finding your niche is so significant. It seems like you're cutting out a whole lot of work that could possibly come in the door that you could say yes to, but actually, and if you listen to all the podcasts, you'll hear the same. Defining your niche and drilling right down is actually important to being able to be more attractive in the market.
And you mentioned that you hire part-time employees. So this is an area that I think every entrepreneur needs to think about. When is the right time to bring people in?
Yeah.
So kind of two questions on this. Why part-timers? Why not full-time employees?
Right.
And do you have any plans of bringing in a partner?
Right, that's a good question. So I, as well as my administrative staff, my assistant and the operations manager who are part-time, I do have another lawyer who works for me on a contract as on a part-time basis as well. The reason I have people part-time is because it actually it fits and it mirrors the model of business that I'm doing. I do part-time or project work for my clients. So I want to be able to embrace that within my own business model and hire people who would otherwise not be able to find full-time jobs, but like me, are able to work really well, but just not full-time for one particular person. So I want to hire those kinds of people within my business to show that I'm, walking the talk in that way. A full-time lawyer, bringing that person on, I think had last year's, COVID-19 not happened, I could have brought somebody on full-time then. It stopped things. It didn't mean that things went backwards. It just meant that it was difficult to hire anybody full-time then. It's something I'd like to be able to do, maybe think about a partner, but that'd have to be a really good fit in many ways for me and complementary to what I don't already do. So perhaps a Japanese lawyer who is female, who maybe is working part-time like me, who wants to collaborate. That kind of person would be ideal for me to go with. And to be honest, the person that I have as a part-time lawyer is almost like that. We're just not in a structured alliance together, but we are in an unstructured alliance together. So she's someone who I think would be an ideal person for that kind of work if we were to partner. I kind of like myself. I'd have to change my name, wouldn't I, and be something else, which is fine as well. But that takes another mental jump to be able to do that, to go in partnership.
Yeah. So Catherine, final question before we move to our breakout session. Now that you are clearly entrepreneurial, is there anything that you look back upon and say, wow, this is the greatest thing. This is why being entrepreneurial is so good. I don't think I could go back to working the way I ever did before this. Or do you have any, ideas that maybe this is just one part of your professional career and that you might choose a different way to be working in the future?
I think because an entrepreneur is someone who sets up a business or businesses, and the other part of that is taking on the financial risk in the hope of profit. So I kind of like doing that now. At the beginning, I may have been hedging my bets and still trying to apply for full-time legal roles while thinking about a business. But now I'm so keen on this kind of business and being able to do something yourself with the freedom that it gives you. Sure, you take on the risk of when you're going to get paid and the next paycheck, but that also is kind of adrenaline and makes you work a lot harder. So would I go back to another full-time legal role or running another business? I might think about running someone else's business, or I might think about a full-time role if I wanted to. But when I start to think about it, the feeling on my body, to be honest, is like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. So I know now what I don't want to do. I'm probably clearer on that than perhaps not knowing what's ahead. But my word of the year is intentional. So everything that I do this year is going to be done with intention. So it could be running another business, right? Or it could be that I do something different, but it's going to be aligned to probably what I'm doing rather than jumping back into a full-time corporate role. That doesn't make me feel joy at all right now. Yeah, I think niche will come from within you. There will be something that you do that others do not do or know how to do. And oftentimes asking somebody else, when you think about me, what is it that you see that I do that's really good? When I asked that question to one of my lawyer friends, she said, you're bilingual. I've heard you. You are totally bilingual. You can write and read Japanese. You can crack jokes in Japanese. Your English is pretty good. She was Australian and she said, your English is pretty good for a New Zealander. I went, haha. However, she told me something that I just took for granted about myself, that I speak Japanese well, but I speak it so much better than other lawyers in town. That is an important point to put out there, that I'm a bilingual lawyer, really, truly bilingual. So that was one thing. And then, as I mentioned before, this in-house legal experience that other lawyers do not have. They simply don't have it. So there's 2 ticks in the bucket already about the things that I do that are different to others, right? And you think of Hide sitting there. He does a lot of recordings and cartoons, and he's a Zumba artist and all kinds of things. Hide's got a colorful rainbow of niches that he has. And I could probably look at everybody here, right, and different things that they do. So talk to people, and I'm happy to sit with people and ask them a lot of questions to help them find their niche, because that helps you decide your why you're going to establish a business and what you're going to be able to deliver to the rest of the world. And again, being a learner and entrepreneur, you're usually a few steps, even just a few steps ahead of somebody else. That makes you be somebody who's able to teach others if you're just that little bit further ahead. So, Brian, you might have done a law degree and you've done some legal work and you know a lot about law. I'm probably a little bit ahead of you, but I've got enough to teach you, right? And as I learn, I give you more of my advice and information, right? So we just always a little bit ahead of somebody. And more than anything else is having that confidence to know, and it's usually right within you. You know what you're better at than others. So just working on that and helping that crystallize into something, and talking to other people about it usually brings it to you, because we see it in people. I can see in Christine, she's an intuitive coach. I've worked with her. Boy, does she know about intuition, right? And I don't know other coaches who do that work. That's her niche. She's great at it. So, I think talking with others and working with them and just having a discussion, you will find your niche. And we all absolutely have it, because we're all individuals and unique people in this world, even amongst coaches, right, Jen? We're all different kinds of coaches in different ways. So we've got our niches. Is niche a word you can do plural? Niches? Or niches, as I heard Americans say, right?
Yeah, so just about a week or so ago, too.
You'll find a mirror in front of you when you talk with other people. They will tell you a lot about yourself that you already knew, but it's having it reflected back at you is a perfect step to getting your niche.
Well, Catherine, thank you very much for giving everybody a sense of calm, a sense of confidence, and recognizing that, of course, having your niche is extremely important. Having the right pricing strategy is extremely important, and knowing what to do in order to get paid. And of course, dealing with difficult people, dealing with inspiring people, and recognizing that, as an entrepreneur, as entrepreneurial, you have a lot that you can do to create, the future of your own business, and you've given everybody some good insight into that today. So thank you very much again, Catherine. Happy birthday. And I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible during our next episode of ENTREPRENIPPONIAL, Entrepreneurs in Japan. Thank you very much. Have a good day.